should have. Oh, me lads, you should have seen us gunning, passing the folks along the road just as they were standing. All the lads and lasses there, all with smiling faces, gunning along the Scotswood Road to see the bleeding races. We went to bleeding races, 'twas on the 9th of June 1862 on a summer's afternoon. We took the bus from Bambra's and she was heavy laden. Away we went along Collingwood Street, that's on the road to Bladen. Whoa, me lads, you should have seen us gunning, passing the folks along the road just as they were standing. All the lads and lasses there, all with smiling faces, gunning along the Scotswood Road to see the bleeding races.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning. Well, I mean, that's how to start our show, isn't it? Perfect. Welcome to NFC Breakfast TV. It is midday here in the UK, so wherever you are in the globe, welcome. You are, well, I say, it still feels like the morning after the night before. Somewhat of a bit of a hangover, footy hangover, I suppose you can call it. A little bit down in the dumps, and lots of discussions going elsewhere in our private chat and obviously on social media about the future of the club. But before we get into our little bit, because obviously there has been some developments elsewhere, let's get on with our housework, and then we'll crack on with the show. So again, welcome to everybody watching across all the platforms. Thanks to all the mods working in the background. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoy the show. It just helps us get further as a channel to other NUFC supporters. Subscribe, it's totally free. Hit the bell for future content. We do 7 days a week content. Apart from the odd day where we have a bit of a day off. But we try and do as many shows as we can, sometimes 2 shows a day. So if you hit the bell, as soon as we upload one, we mainly go live, but we have got some recorded stuff as well. So if you hit the bell, as soon as it gets on there for you guys to watch out in Viewerland, you will be notified. Don't forget, you can help us as well by becoming a member, and that just gives you, it gives you a chance to watch all of the members only stuff, as well as winning a small prize at the end of the month. And it's a fee, a small donation if you like, but that does help us grow as a channel. Don't forget to check out the webpage, nufctalk.tv. That's obviously got all the up-to-date news and content as we get it. We try and update it. Totally ad-free, so if you've got 5 minutes and you want a little bit of a read, you can go and have a look there. If you've got a question to either myself or the mighty, then try and put a Q in front of the question. If we get the opportunity and it's relevant, we'll have a look at it. But if you want to guarantee it, then you can use the $sign. Follow the instructions, and that'll guarantee that message read out. Anybody that becomes a member or anybody that's willing to gift memberships will be highlighted and thanked as we go. So that is the introduction, and as you can see, I'm ready for Christmas. I've got my big bottle of Brune in the background. So and he's living in a bloody Christmas museum. Yeah, I'm gonna say, yeah, a yard of ale, sir. So yeah, it's how are you feeling, matey, after our dogged lack of a performance, especially in the second half on Saturday? But yeah, it was a strange half. It was definitely a glass half empty in the second half rather than the glass half full. Gutting it was to watch.
It
the
is
demise.
becoming more and more difficult to be a happy clapper.
Yeah, it is.
And I think the next 4 games now are going to decide Eddie's future. On paper, they're all winnable.
Oh, absolutely.
And should we win them all, things are going to be looking very, very different by Christmas. You know, you stick 9 points on us now, and we're up there, you
Oh,
know.
yeah, absolutely.
And if
That's
you
what
look
I
at all
said.
the fixtures, everybody's playing everybody else, so not everybody can get 9 points, whereas we can. And, you know, it's back to basics, you know, it's results, results, results. That's what a manager is judged upon.
Yeah, yeah. It's
And
definitely results industry.
right now, the results haven't been acceptable, to be fair. And
Mm.
Saturday for me was a typical example of Eddie's in-game management, substitutions, and to a degree selections uh, have been wanting.
Mm.
Now you could argue after the first half on Saturday, where I think we should comfortably have been in front. You know that the game changes completely if Isaac puts that tap in. But you could he could argue that his changes worked. Murphy gets 2 assists, Barnes gets a goal, and they were the 2 that replaced, if you like, Tonali and Gordon. Uh, you know, obviously Longstaff for Tonali, but the point is that the system worked. We created chances as usual, and as usual, we couldn't finish with dinner. You know, Murphy had a header. Bruno had two shots that were poor. Uh, but yet again, when it came to substitutions, making substitutions that didn't just change one position meant reorganizing the team and everybody getting used to something new and whatever. It, we got each substitution made us progressively worse, in my opinion.
I mean, I did
You know,
say at
now
the
you think if you're bringing on players of the quality, you know, we've now got the luxury, if you like, of having Tonali and Gordon, players of that quality on the bench. They should, in theory, improve the team when they came on, and they didn't.
But I mean, the argument is, shouldn't you? Should we have had him on the bench?
Oh, well,
Shouldn't we have started? I mean, there's always
absolutely
going to
not.
be here, there's, and I mean, I questioned our capabilities defensively, and I've highlighted the likes of Fabian Schär along the road, and I think Brentford. I think he stuck out like a blind cobbler's thumb, and I apologise to any blind cobblers out there, um, because he was poor. It was as a poor a defensive um, episode that I've seen in a long time, because there was a catastrophe of errors virtually for every single goal. Um, and as much as I didn't like the way we conceded um, goals, it was typical, Newcastle, where you actually get yourself back into the game in the first half by hook or by crook. You show a little bit of spirit, and it seems again, as soon as we start the second half, it's all undone again, and it's a case of the team is just not concentrating on what's happening in front of them, and it seems as if it's not just one person that's making the error. It's like, wayward passes, not closing down. It's just basics football, and that's what I said. I cannot understand, or I've never seen uh, a poorer effort regarding a defensive unit uh, from our side. I mean, like I say, we've had some poor teams in the past, but I don't think we've ever been shown a defensive team like that we've had recently. And I mean, people say to me, you can't blame Byrne, you can't blame Hall, you can't blame Tino, you can't blame Shaw. And I'm like, well, yeah, I know you've got to have some support from your midfield, and we were massively lacking that support against Brentford, but it was the individual errors that I couldn't work out. And I've said this before, you know, and let's pick out the first goal. We've just had a little bit of a rerun in the green room. You have a couple of 50-50 balls that bounce in the centre circle. The ball then gets pushed to Norgard, who's just inside his own half, who then pings a 40-yard ball to oh, it's gone out my head as soon as I was going to say that. This is typical Monday with me.
A Brentford player.
Yeah, Umbuemo, or Umbumo, or whoever we want to call him.
Well, I think
Who
it's
was
Mbeumo, but a lot of people are calling him Mbumo now.
Umbumo? Yeah, exactly. And as the ball goes across to him, you know, we both see the fact that you've got Louis Hall, instead of closing him and going in at the angle during the movement of the ball in the air, he actually runs parallel with him, which allows then. I mean, don't get me wrong, Mbuemo's takedown of the ball was, yeah, the outside of his foot. You know, it's class. But the ball still bounces up to thigh high before before he's able to control it. And again, them are the big opportunities: one, to close the space, and two, to make a challenge. No excuses for me on that. And then when he goes in towards the goal, you've got an opportunity to again get a foot in, but again, as we've just seen, arms behind the back, 5 yards outside the box. He just gets pushed back. He's just standing up. And then when Umbermo comes onto his left foot, you've got J7 running down towards him. You've got Lewis Hall that obviously he's wrong-footed to a degree onto his right foot, and again he just dangles it. And then behind him, you've got Fabian Shaw, you've got Byrne, and I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a class shot into the top corner, but it was just, it was just poor. It was like I say, it was a case of I can't be bothered. It's too cold. It reminded me of the school days where your mates just didn't want to go out playing in the snow because it was just too cold. And I got the impression from a lot of them at the time that it was like a case of, the Storm. I don't want to play in this today, and that was the attitude I got, and it was just poor, so poor. And again, the second goal for Wissa, great finish, but he should never have been given their opportunity. It was a poor ball from Barnes into no man's land,
It was
wasn't
a
it?
perfect ball
Well, that's what I said. If he was playing for
for
Brentford,
Brentford.
yeah, it was a quality ball because I mean, not only did it bend towards him, because he played it with his right foot, it was nowhere near a Newcastle player, and it's things like that just frustrate the life out of you. But we were just talking, if Isaac could have taken his goal when he rounded it, the keeper, and used his left foot rather than trying to bring it back onto his right foot, he had the goal agape there. Going 2-1 up could have just been the kickstart the lads needed. But, coming from behind continually, there's going to come a time where that just doesn't happen. So we're going to go through the player scores in a minute, and I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of rousing numbers, if I'm honest. You've just highlighted a couple of, I can see you've starred a couple. Man United fans want Ineos out now. Yeah, it's funny what's happening down at United, and you mentioned this morning that I suppose that's the perfect place to start is what's happening now with Dan Ashworth, because by all accounts, from what I read yesterday, it's Amorim that's got him the sack, because he's not happy with any of the boys that they've bought. Now, I don't think you can directly go out and blame him when he's obviously been supporting Ten Hag, but it is a strange one. Now, obviously, you've also come up with the fact that you've seen somewhere that it's also been shown the actual true value that Man United paid for him to Newcastle. Even though I read 3 million, you said it's been stated somewhere that it was 5 million.
5,
Am I
I've
right?
seen, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is still different from the 10 that we were told at the time.
Yeah, and 20 originally. That was what
Well,
was out
20
there.
were asked for originally.
Yeah. So it's miles out from what we originally asked for. Yeah. Um, but it is mad, isn't it? You think that what's happened to this lad, going on leave, wanting to more or less go and play football with his friends at another club. So goes on garden leave for 5 months. Then obviously starts his new job, and like within 5 months, he's got the tin tack. And apparently that was he was. Anyhow, I think he was given his marching orders yesterday evening after the meeting. It was literally, as soon as they discussed it, the door was opened and he was told to go through it, and obviously never come back. So it is a strange one when you think. I mean, I don't have any issues with what's happened. I mean, it's a gamble. It's a gamble for everybody. But I did question some of the boys that he's brought there, and like I say, again, Ten Hag agreed these decisions, um, and obviously I saw it in the chat yesterday, and I think the biggest discussion for me is, regardless of what's happened at Man U, is do we support Eddie Howe? I mean, we're going through a bit of a rough patch at the minute. Before we get on to them, if we are criticising, or Ashworth's being critiqued by the board, by the new manager, for buying players. Question in our chat in the forum was, we shouldn't give Eddie any trust whatsoever with any Newcastle money. But aren't we just? I made a statement. Aren't we just burying ourselves in the sand then? Because obviously we need fresh faces. We need players to come in and G these guys up, because at the minute, like I've said previously, there's potentially 8 players out there that know there's nobody going to take the place, and it's showing because there's no leadership quality out there. I mean, we have got a show coming up talking about leadership, so I don't want to go too heavily involved in that. But the difference I've seen this season compared to last season, when we had the injury crisis, was the will to fight for each other. Doesn't seem to be wanting to be there this
Missing.
season.
It's gone.
Yeah. And I mean, there was no excuse. There was more of an excuse last season, knowing
No,
the
last
injury
season
list.
there was every excuse in the
You know
world.
what I mean?
We had nobody to pick.
But
But
I
you've
did
got
also say, when in the chat, that we were talking before, and I've said in the forum about, have we got players within our side now that have reached the ceiling and have now stepped off that ceiling and starting to demise? And there's a number of players within that ilk, and like I said, Fabian Schär for me has been the obvious choice this season. He just doesn't seem to be half the player I expected him to be. I mean, his distribution's good and everything else, but everything part of his defending is absolutely atrocious.
he's lost the plot really. Well, he's not the only one, and this is the thing. You wonder. It came to my mind when I was watching it the second time. A couple of times I saw Bruno look around at Longstaff, and I'm thinking, you just wonder, are the players losing heart with the initial team selection? They're saying, bloody hell, that's what we've got. That's what we've got to put up with. Can you hear me okay? Because Chris is saying
Yeah.
me
No,
mic's
no,
going.
I can hear you, but I mean, it is. I'd rather you be a little bit low rather than blasting my ears out. To be fair.
Yeah. So it's another Monday morning when we're down in the dumps. Everybody's sick as a pig. Everybody in the club yesterday was down in the dumps. Blame Eddie out, Eddie in. No, don't forget what he's doing. And it's such a divisive situation we're in now, as opposed to what we had 2 years ago when everybody was pulling in the same direction.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I say, it's down to results now. Because if we don't go, he's got a week to prepare. I mean, does Eddie even know what his best team is?
Well, you've got to think of your options. Like I said, I have been scathed before about talking about certain positions on the field, and you're limited on what you can do and who you can bring in. Now, say for instance, like I said, I can understand. I can fully understand now. 15 games coming up into a season where we're looking for a right centre back, because if you think about it, both Byrne and Fabian Shaw would be our second string centre back pairing, would never be our first point of call, because Botman's coming in. We're looking for this new right centre back, which obviously everybody knows it was Gay. So that would have been your new pairing going forward, your first team pairing, with the likes of then your youngsters on the wing, your fullbacks, I mean. And obviously then you'd be looking for a right winger. Now, when you come into the midfield, now we've lost players. Who have you got to pick from, apart from the said three, and then the rest? So it's trying to find that balance between what you've got, what you can bring in, and what you can sell. And if you haven't got, and I've said this I don't know how many times, if you haven't got the sellable assets, how are you going to bring in the quality that's needed to turn things round? Um,
The only
and
way we're going to bring any money in is by selling one of the crown jewels. That's going to make any difference. Do we need
yeah,
to
yeah.
do that? It's looking like probably we do, because we've got Andrew Turnley afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all well and not too disappointed. Well, I'm afraid we are. But just keep the faith. It's going to take time, and we're a lot better than we were 3 years ago. Just remember that. Well, think about this. Steve Bruce, on an absolute shoestring, without any spending, finished 12th and 13th. And that's where we are now, 12th, 13th.
Yeah,
Haven't
but there's a
spent.
difference between 38 games and 15 games, mate.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you can't even use that um, as an even directive, because, like I say, if we're there after the end of 36, then 38, you can say defo.
Yeah,
But I don't
exactly.
think we will be. I don't think we will be. But it's
But
like I said.
I don't think we will be either. But the evidence suggests that we will be, because
Yeah,
for 12 months now, not just for these 50, for 12 months, we've been good game, bad game, mediocre game, good game, bad game, mediocre game. And that is the definition of mid-table. And that's historical now. That the results are there now to exactly highlight that that's the sort of team we are. And why is it that they can raise their game for the big teams, but can't raise their game against the so-called minnows?
yeah. Well, let's have a look
You
at
know,
this then. For
everybody's
the
pointing to Brentford's home record this season. You know, it's such a bad result because their home record. They played Palace, Southampton, West Ham, Wolves, Ipswich, and Leicester. All bottom six, bottom seven.
yeah.
Ridiculous random access again. Thank you very much. That's gone to.
Dun, 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 dun.
Come here, where are you? Let's have a look, man.
Has it gone? So it's gone probably to the bottom somewhere. It's gone to Matthew Staunch Toaster Ward. What? That's a cracking name.
Matthew
Matthew
who?
Ward Staunch Toaster. That's a
Staunch
classic.
Toaster.
Welcome, Matthew. I haven't seen you before, sir.
Definitely
Uh,
not.
that is that. Where's Staunch Toaster from? I'd like to know where that's from.
Staunch.
Matty Ward,
Matthew
welcome along,
Staunch
matey.
Toaster Ward.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Well, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful and welcome.
Welcome
And
indeed.
if you wouldn't mind, Katie, now that you remember, you've got access to all the back catalogue, all the member exclusive stuff. Have a look
Yeah,
at that, and if you enjoy it, keep your membership going, Bonnie lad.
indeed. So what we'll do then, we'll just have a quick gander and we'll go through a little bit of, I suppose we can go through this and we can look back from where it all began. Hopefully, you can see this quite clearly when I enlarge it a bit. Can you guys see that okay? Yeah, I'm looking
Yeah.
on the screen. We're okay. So I've gone on here. We've gone from the Fulham game because obviously before that, as we all know, we were picking up points even though we weren't playing extremely well. So this is when it's for me. It seemed as if we've turned a little bit of a downward spiral. So we lost the 3-1 to Fulham, and then obviously everybody said what a great game the Man City game was, but we only come out with a draw. But again, we could have come out with a lot more than a draw, because we limited them to chances, and we probably on paper, according to a lot of sources, they said that our XG was more than Man City's on the day, so potentially. Now, I went to this match, the Wimbledon game, with Win, and I must admit it was a hard watch. And obviously we got a penalty that got us the win. So against AFC Wimbledon, I expect a lot more. So that was, if I'm honest with you, even though it was majority of our, you could class second string players, the alarm bells was ringing here for me, having watched them perform. Because as I was explaining to Win, it was very much the pendulum formation, with no real intent to try and get in and behind. And again, that continued when we went to Everton. We it was a case of, yeah, we dominated. Yes, we missed a penalty, um, but we were only dominating possession of the ball in front of the goal. And
Everton, 14 shots, but only 3 on target. Obviously, we missed the penalty. 10
yeah,
corners to their 0.
yeah,
68% possession. And still we'll come away with a 0-0.
yeah. And then obviously we're at home to Brighton, and again, this is where obviously we all say, um, was the game where we should have actually put these to bed. But again, lack of ingenuity, try to break down the low block. Whatever reasons, it was just one of them games that we couldn't do anything. We did everything in front of goal,
So
couldn't do anything
couldn't
actually
finish
on goal.
21 shots, 6 on target.
Yeah.
9 corners to their 4. 60% possession. And still couldn't get the job done.
And then we go to Chelsea, and we lose to Chelsea in the league. And then obviously we have them.
But if you remember the Chelsea game, the sitter that was missed at the finish,
Yeah.
we could comfortably have drawn that game.
Well, we wouldn't have deserved it, mate.
No, but if we'd kept in tandem, if you like, with the way we were getting points early on in the season.
That's right. The first 4 or 5 games, yeah. And then obviously we had a second string Chelsea, which you can class it as a second string. I mean, that would probably compete as much as we're competing this season in the Premier League. So that was a good result, I must admit. That was really a good performance by everybody, and we got the result we deserved. And then obviously we go to
Well, yes, again, there you were saying the result we deserved, but if you remember that game, and it's coming back to me now, looking at these stats, they had 17 shots to our 8,
yeah,
4 on target to our 2, which were both goals,
both goals, yeah.
66% possession, and 9 corners to our 1. So were very much hitting them, but that's the way we like to play. We only had
We're a
34%
counter-attacking
possession,
side, yeah, exactly.
and that sums up the games the Newcastle tend to win.
Yeah, we did the same against Arsenal, didn't we?
Same against Arsenal, 64-36.
And then obviously we go to Forest, who we all thought was going to be the banana skin. And I must admit, with Forest being at home, I thought that was going to be a really difficult game, and yet it was the opposite. It looked the most comfortable win we've had all season.
Yeah.
And you go then into this platform of demise, if you like, from the West Ham game, which was horrendous. to lose on that Monday night under the lights. We just wasn't involved at all. And then obviously the Crystal Palace draw, and again, totally outplayed. Crystal Palace, if they'd have finished their dinner on the day, should have put us out of sight. And then we come to the Newcastle and Liverpool game. And we all said, wow, what a game. And like I said, for the neutral, for me, it was one of them games that you just think that was a great game because it was end to end. I mean, both teams could have scored 4 or 5 on the day. But again, I think the biggest thing for me is it shows how weak we are conceding goals. Now, obviously, we had this stat at the start of a little bit further down the list where, we were second beyond only Liverpool on goals against. We hadn't scored as many, and that was our problem. But now we've started to score, we are literally opening the floodgates behind. And again, it's this disattachment between the midfield and the back four. There doesn't seem to be a way around it at the minute because we don't have a big enough or a solid enough back four to allow space or our midfielders the way Eddie Howe sets them up. And again, we've said this for a while. You have to have a certain type of player to play this 4-3-3, the fluid 4-3-3 that Eddie likes. And it doesn't seem as if we have those type of players in the squad at this present moment in time. So is it the fact that Eddie, being, the way he coaches and everything else, as we've heard him say previously, he hasn't changed anything in 2 years. Is it the fact now that the players that we've got have got too old, and I'm talking about certain individuals, not all of them. Is there certain individuals within this team now that just can't carry this type of football that Eddie's looking for? And then obviously you've got the Brentford 4-2 loss the weekend, which was, like I say, as bad a defensive performance as I've seen. And that, to me, it seems to sum our season up this season. For me, it was, like I say, there's been points of it where it's been an exciting game, and everything seems to be flowing exactly the way you want it, and going. You think if only we can finish, we'll get the result we came for, and for whatever reason we just haven't been able to finish or get strikes at goal. It's been so disappointing. And then we seem nothing to do, but as in total opposite, we seem to be flooding the goals with shots, but also conceding. We've never got this balance correct where we're doing one or the other. PDK, the graphs are out. No, I haven't got any graphs, mate. Not yet. Not yet.
Have we done that one? Yeah, we've done that one.
Yeah, we've done that one.
Yeah, thanks again, Random.
And it's a case of, what can we do to change things with the current squad that we've got? And that's why I questioned about not giving Eddie any money. Are we not just burying our heads in the sand? Because you're not going to change anything if you don't bring anybody in. I mean, I think this is what's proved in the last 2 windows, hasn't it?
I'm getting some pings here from our Lord and Master, and I don't see what he's saying.
What's that?
Apparently, he says the random access comment, which is thank you very much, Random, has been on screen for 15 minutes. It's not on our screen.
It may have been on. I mean, I was on another screen, so I wasn't watching, mate. To be fair,
but I'm on YouTube. It's not on mine.
No, okay. Well, I don't know.
Anyway, let's have a look at some of the comments anyway.
Yeah, let's go for it before we move on.
So we've got James, can we not talk about our defence? A back four job to close out attacks. We say we want to be a top side, but our back four can't handle attacks by themselves. It's their job. Top sides back four can handle attacks. Yep. We'd happily swap Bonds for Mbueno, sorted. Well, here's the thing, Geordie. What about Bonds and Wilson for Mbuemo? And a few Bob, obviously, but that would we'll lose two wages, which would more than pay for Mbwemo's wages. And I don't think that'd be a lot of money. That's assuming that they would take those. Yeah. No leadership or winners. Yeah, well, we're going to talk about leadership on the show tomorrow night because that's definitely missing. Question for you both. If we go out and fix our defence, go find a solid leader for the back line, can we not fix our season? Well, yes, we can. But it's a question of going out and finding that leader in defence. Obviously, we've got Botman coming back, hopefully in the new year, which will make a difference. And we've got January to buy another centre back, which I think Saturday was proof conclusive, if we needed any, that Fab's just about had his day. And this also, by the way, goes into the fact that do we give him a new contract? Because everybody was kind of all for him getting another year or two. A couple of months back, or not even a couple of months back, a month back, everybody was saying, yeah, he deserves another year or two. Is that still the case? Peter McCardle, if we lose to Leicester and Brentford in the Cup, he will be gone. Yeah, I think you could be right there. There's 100 million in the bank, plus next year PSR being scrapped in its current form, so that will be even better for us. This year is a rough patch, but we need fresh blood. We do indeed. Yeah, as he rightly points out, we were never 4 to 5 points off Champions League under Bruce, though. It's all relative.
Yeah, it is.
Ian Fleming. Ooh, wow. I think this is the first time I've heard Ian jumping onto the dark side. I don't think Eddie can take us any further. And to be honest, he has done well, but we need to move to the next level. And I don't think it's with Eddie. Right, well, there's a... If Ian's saying that, there must be quite a few people doing the same. Trolls, I think Mitchell will call the shots in January, and Eddie either buys into it or he leaves, if he's still there come the window. Yep. A lot of people want Eddie Howe out, but is it fair when he has not been backed and still has half the team of Bruce players? Can we afford or buy that player? Well, that's my kind of argument. I don't think he has been backed. If Mitchell gets a player Howe doesn't want, he will use the excuse that the player needs to get up to speed and not play him until March at the earliest. You work with what you got, and if you can't get that to work, out you go, in my opinion. Guys, hate it when we lose, makes my week straight. Yeah, you, me, and everybody else, I think.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one to handle at the minute, this one.
Lovely background, Gazatron. Afternoon, everyone, and the dynamic duo. Hi, Foxy.
Hi, Foxy.
There's always a massive hole in the 10 area between our midfield and back four. If you watch a lot of the goals we concede, they start because of a simple pass that goes through our midfield to their number 10.
Yeah, spot on. But again, you can only look at the likes of Howe's tactics for that. And if he's not willing to play a deep player, and he has this fluid movement. Now, I quite liked the Liverpool game with the fluid movement because one always stayed out of the three of them. But against Brentford, that just did not happen. And even when we put the passing maps on post the game, the gap between our midfield and our back four was void. It was a massive. I'll call it the canyon, if you like. It was ridiculous.
Well, if you look at that, the first goal, when the ball comes over to Mbeumo, in that TV shot, then there's just a vast field of green. There's absolutely nobody.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. And that's what I said to you before. As Eddie Howe said like I said, this was a big test for Lewis Hall, this game, and the Liverpool game. You're up against two world class right wingers that will both take you inside out. It wasn't Hall's usual play, if I'm honest with you. It was as if he was withdrawn a little bit from what he would do normally. And I know it's quite easy to be sucked in as a youngster and experience. You get beaten either inside or out, and it proved his downfall this weekend. If I'm honest, when Mbeumo went on his little mazy run and beat three or four players. But again, it was an exceptional goal, but you put it away stunningly, And I mean, even you said that must have come off like a deflection.
Yeah.
And when you see it, it's a clear hit into that top corner, into the bin. And it was an exceptional goal. And it's like I said, they shouldn't have got to that opportunity, and there was a lot of mistakes within the build up. There was mistakes during the play. And like I say, even if you give a foul away 10, 15 yards outside the box, they still have to provide a worldie to beat you from that distance. Now, people will say, well, you don't want to give fouls away in and around your box. Well, the easiest answer to that is you certainly don't want to be giving goals away in and around your box because you are just gifting a shot at goal. And how Nick Pope was performing, he didn't give. And again, I'll say it. When you've got a keeper who's not at his best, and I'm gonna put that politely, making lots of indecisions, wrong decisions, not coming out and commanding his box very easily,
And when he
punching
does
the
come out,
ball. Yeah, punching the ball instead of catching a simple ball. Now, people are going to blame the elements, and I said at the start of the game, the elements are going to make it, a neutral game. It doesn't matter how many you've got on the field. It favours more Brentford, the guys who are going to battle more and just try and hit their front men. And we were outnumbered all the
on
time.
that subject, Gary, this is another thing that made me take another baby step towards the dark side, because in his post-match to the press, Eddie blamed the elements. And
it was the same for both teams.
When he's starting to blame the elements for our performance, that to me is not a good sign. It was the same for both teams. Brentford scored 2 goals in one end and 2 goals at the other end. So we were trying to work out which way the wind was blowing.
So I said it was a swirler.
But it's irrelevant. They scored 2 goals in both ends. We didn't. Yeah. We only scored 2 in one end. So the elements are the same for both. But to blame the weather, to me, is utter nonsense.
Yeah, I think you just snatch it. You're grasping at straws, aren't you? You're trying to snatch it and any excuse you can to try and keep the press or the wolves off the door, if you like. Flatulence is.
With the blame lack of backing on Eddie in the transfer, when do you think our owners, Rubens and PIF, takes some blame for our position? Well, they would simply argue, Gary, that it's PSR and FFP and.
Well, that's what it's been, hasn't it? The money's there. They've all said the money's there. If you need to spend, spend. The problem is we've been held back because of PSR issues, and the fact that we now, even on this window coming up, it looks very much. If you read between the lines, it's going to be you have to sell to buy, and you may not have to sell in this window, but you'll certainly have to sell in June to actually keep yourself under that ceiling, under the threshold. Which is crazy when you think of, we've, as Darren Eales has said, and, Wynne has said multiple times, the club has grown, was it say tripled by now, hasn't it? You said at one point, I think you said it was tripled. Some over 300 million now or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you look at that and you start saying to yourself that it's not the fact that we're not bringing in the money now. We are bringing in the money, but we're still nowhere near the revenue of the big guns. And And you
And
look at
the transfer fee inflation is just,
it's just gone out the window, hasn't it?
left it behind.
Yeah. But I still think, like I say, we aren't ever going to be able to catch up under the current scrutiny. We're never going to be able to catch up with the big boys.
And it says this year's a reality check. We overachieved after takeover. We're stuck with almost the same squad and no sight of any big signings. We are back to being a club happy to survive relegation. Well, I'm sure that PIF do not think that they're happy to avoid relegation, but I think we had issues with a gap between defence and midfield versus Liverpool, a natural DM, and I don't think we conceded those 3 goals. Well, we know about Eddie and DMs.
Yeah.
I think Howe has to go, unfortunately, but also a few of the players who will never recover the the glory days. Sad, but Father Time catches up with us all eventually. Indeed, it does. Flatulence. Hello, flatulence. Agent defence. The elite still recovering from Amanda's departure. Changed at the top has added to the instability. Eddie still remains dignified. Either back him or sack him. He deserves better. Nick Thornton, Eddie said it was too cool. Yeah, that was the other thing. I know. I mean, God, but he says in the substitutes when they came on didn't have time to warm up properly. Well, the Brentford substitute had time to warm up properly and score.
Yeah.
That was just, I mean, crazy.
As I said, it's just bonkers.
It
Absolute
was too
bonkers.
windy. I might call my employer and say I wasn't particularly great at my job today because the ambient temperature of my office wasn't quite right. Aye, exactly.
I love it. Absolutely
What's
love it.
AX got to say? The wind was to blame for our defeat, and the half-time oranges weren't organic, and the grass was too long. So there we have it.
Is that all of the
That's all the
what's the name?
start up to now,
All the
yeah.
starred. Okay, cool. And like I said, it is what it is when it comes to excuses and everything else. I mean, you are going to be here for a day and a bit just going on excuses. You can blame the elements, and I said it's more of a neutralizer because it's going to put both teams. It's whoever's going to fight for the ball more, and we just hadn't got the balls to actually get to the fight. On a little bit more news going forward. I've seen that there's I don't know whether you guys have any of you guys have seen this. I'm gonna whack my before I just make sure
Trousers,
I've got the right one before we go on to what have I done with this? Oh, yeah, there you go.
Trousers saying it was a powerful gust of wind that diverted Barnes's pass to Wissa.
To Wissa, yeah. So news coming in, or if you can call it breaking, if you like, that along with Tottenham Hotspur and Brighton and Lyon, apparently they're interested in Zenon from Boca Juniors. He's got a release clause of 15 million euros, and they're trying to increase the clause to 20 million, according to the reports that has come out this morning for this lad. Apparently, he plays across the more of a midfield left rather than a winger. But he has got he's got some ability. Very hard to compare him. Let's compare him against Anthony Gordon, I suppose. Even though, like I say, he's not been a whirlwind. As you can see, he's less than Anthony Gordon for the fair, but he's a left footer, plays in midfield. He has had a few sick notes episode. Currently in and around the 7.25 in his category. Foxy may know a little bit about this lad, but as you can see down here, he's definitely a midfield left. But if you look at his heat map a bit further down, you can see that he actually plays across the park. Not so much into the penalty area, but literally down the left wing. And then obviously he's trying to replicate
Right
that
as
down the
well.
right hand side. Yeah. So again, I don't know much about this lad. For the price, is he going to be better than what we've got? I don't know. Like I say, some of the games that he's getting points of 8.6. Just having a quick look where that 8.6 was. Oh, it was. He scored the goal against Newell's. Now have a quick look at where he played in that one, if it allows me to come up, which it hasn't done. Let's go on it again. There you go. Again, you know, you I suppose you take your money, you pay as your dues. I don't think he's going to give us that much of a difference, to be fair.
I don't think a left midfielder is anywhere near priority for the January window. I think a right centre back and a right
You
winger
see,
are.
yeah, you see where Eddie was going now, can't you? With what we've got in that situation, it is a toughie, if I'm honest. If I go on that, it might give me. There you go. So that was his heat map for this game, where he got the 8.6, and he was mainly on the right-hand side, according to this. So there's obviously something that they've seen in him. Like I say, it's not certainly not something that excites me. I don't know enough about this lad. I need to go and go. I only saw it, like I say, this morning, so I need to research it a little bit more. Is anybody saying anything about this guy in the chat before I move on to the
No,
next one?
no.
Bruno rumours have started again. Yeah,
Oh,
he's
he's
not right
saying
wing. Well, he plays
Brennan scored the
across.
winner last night. Was that the last game that you were talking about there?
It may have been. Yeah, it may have been. Didn't really look at the dates of it, to be fair. But it could have been. Yeah, it was. So yeah. So you know, like I say, I mean, his stats are there or thereabouts, but without, like I say, the Premier League and the Brazilian leagues are a bit different, aren't they? Or the South American leagues, I should say. So I don't know a lot about this player. Um, if I'm honest, to shout
No,
through the
neither.
rafters.
Alan's saying there,
So
good day, guys. We're nowhere near relegation. Look at the tables. 3 teams already a bit adrift. Not going to be relegated. Keep it real. I don't think any of us have even mentioned relegation.
no, it's about it's the way we're playing. I don't think we'll ever be in that fight. But you know, if you think about it, if we lose against Leicester, right, or even get a draw against Leicester, and then go out to Brentford at home, eh, you've got to question
That
what
would
this
be it for
season's
me.
about, haven't you?
If we don't beat Leicester, and when I say beat, I mean beat comfortably,
Yeah.
without hanging on or whatever. I mean, yes, the result is the most important thing. But if we can't beat Leicester at home, you know, serious questions have to be asked. And then we'll
Yeah.
have Brentford on Wednesday, and again, that's crucial in the season. But again, my worry is if we get beat off Leicester just for the sake of argument, and then we beat Brentford, so we're into the semi-finals of the Carabao. That to me shouldn't be enough for to keep Eddie in his job. You know, we need 9 points coming up in the league, because that's the bread and butter of the league.
Yeah, so Foxy's
Uh,
saying Zenon's comparison to Gordon isn't a really fair one. He's a more versatile player than that, as an attacking player. So, like I say, it looks like he plays a deeper role, and then moves into those attacking areas. Um, by the looks of that, but I mean, obviously, Eddie likes players who track back, don't he? So, it'll be an interesting one. So anyway, let's go on to the scores at the weekend, I suppose, can't we?
if
Because
we
like I say,
must,
I don't think this is going to be there for anybody anybody to shout at this one. Like I say, I'm going to apologise now because for whatever reason, these don't always fit on my page, so I'll do my best. Nicholas Pope, obviously the the votes are in. Let's open it up so we can just check to make sure there's no others. So no, there's no other votes. Everybody thought he was either a 4 or a 5, and 5 gets the vote with 57%. I actually gave him a 4. I didn't think he was that good, if I'm honest. What did I write down for Pope? Conceded 4 goals, nearly embarrassed for a 5th in injury time as Mbeumo robbed him of the ball. Tough conditions for a keeper, I suppose, but will still be disappointing. Not commanding his box enough, punching when it was easier to catch. A little bit of I said before, it was more the fact that for me, are the back four not trusting Pope, and there's a lack of communication, but there's certainly something happening with us conceding goals, and I'm not sure whether Pope's actually talking to the boys in front of him
Well,
enough.
you know, there appears to be no communication at all. It's just poor at the back now.
Yeah.
It's there for all to see.
You gave Pope a 5, yeah?
Yeah, I give him a 5.
Fabian Shaw, this is gonna. Oh, there you go. I'm gonna say this could be interesting. Fabian Shaw's got a 3 from me. Looks like Chris is in there with the 3 as well. Anybody else vote? No, doesn't look like there was any more numbers. So it was either a 3 or a 4, which is still poor in anybody's shadow. So 57% voted Fabian Shaw as a 4. And on that count, I put him down as a bit all over the place, struggled in the conditions, as evidenced by losing the flight of the ball for the 3rd goal, but was also done by Mbeumo for their 4th. Sloppy in possession at times too, inviting pressure from a few poor giveaways. Not his best game, if I'm honest. So
Distribution was
57%
woeful.
was 3. Big DB, I gave him a 4, and 71%.
No, this is the thing. Why did you give Dan Burn a 4?
There was a number of things, mate, to be fair. When you look at some of Dan Burns' positioning, I mean, what you've got to stop thinking about is, yeah, he got back to get the ball off the line, right? But if you look at a lot of his positioning against some of Brentford's play, it wasn't in line with the rest of his defence. He was out of position a lot of the times. He didn't close any of the balls down. He just tried to block a lot of the shots. There was a couple of times he was that far out of position. Tino Livramento, who was left back, had to cover his ground. Now, people always say you need players to cover everybody's back, and I agree with that. But you can't be that far out of position for a lad to run 20 yards to cover your position. That's how I look at play. And for me, again, I'm not saying he's going to be great with his feet. We know he's dominant in the air, but you can't. For me, just being dominant in the air doesn't allow you to become a stalwart. And again, you're looking at leadership. Did I see enough of him commanding that back line against Brentford to give him any more of a score? No, I didn't. I've watched it twice. I didn't see anything where he was talking to any of the back four. He wasn't geeing anybody up. And I'm thinking to myself, you're part of the leadership group.
Yeah, well,
You
I
need that
watched
communication.
it the 3rd time I watched it because I was getting pelters in the forum for
Yeah.
giving him it. I thought he was our man of the match. And when I
Right.
watched it, and then I was getting loads of pelters, so I watched it again, specifically just looking at Dan Burn and what he was doing.
Yeah. Well,
And I couldn't see anything that he was doing wrong. I could see plenty that other people were doing wrong.
yeah. Well, but again, I'm not blaming him being out of position
I'm not
as for
saying he was
him not
brilliant.
trying to cover.
I would have given him a 7 normally, but I gave him 8. I gave him an extra point for getting back and saving Pope's blushes
Yeah.
when he got dispossessed.
You see, but what I've put here is summed it up for me. Could have been a bigger scoreline if not for some crucial challenges. He did get himself in and around, and that goal line clearance. But again, but positioning was poor. For their fourth goal, he struggled with their pace and attack. Because again, we've just seen Cher gets in front of him, and as soon as they're through on goal and Buemo, Burn just couldn't react to it. And it was like a hot knife going through butter. And when you've got your two centre halves, one anticipating to try and win the ball, which were, again, it's schoolboy stuff, in front, which was Cher, you want your other centre half to cover you. And he just hasn't got the recovery. And that's what I said. The way they play, they've got to, if they either come out together and try and play an offside trap, they can't play staggered like they're trying at the minute. Because if the ball goes beyond Shah, Burn is gone. He hasn't got the recovery pace to get back. And that's what I looked at. It was more the fourth goal that was the problem with me. It was all about positioning. And like I said, you're looking at the goals that we concede. When I looked at the first goal, we've just watched the first goal. He was deep, didn't come at the ball. You've got to close space down. If you close space down, that's what they say to all keepers. If you come towards the ball, the actual target zone narrows. So if you just seen there, he was deep. And that's what I'm saying. Yes, he was still marking the player. I'm not saying he wasn't. But sometimes you've got to say to yourself, where's the danger? The danger was the lad with the ball. Now, if Burn comes to the ball and then the ball gets passed by the side of him, you hope one of your colleagues can get you out of jail. And it's little things like that for me that I'm starting to see more and more and more within the side. But like I say, I obviously wasn't on my own. Yeah, you gave him an 8. Somebody gave him a 6. I don't think there was any other results. Tino. This was a bit of a different one, a bit of a strange one for Tino. Can't even remember what I gave Tino. Did I give it? Oh, I gave him a 5 on there. I gave him a 5 and 43%. I went with a 5. There was a couple of votes for one vote for 14, one vote for 3. Let's have a look, see if there's anything else. Nope. So 7, 5, 3, and a 6. And 43% went with a 5. And again, I didn't put anything too kind for any of them, to be fair. Some good reads in defence and carried the ball well, breaking forward with pace, made a decision to pull out of a tackle on Sade for the decisive fourth goal, and would have been a penalty if he'd have got possibly a red card, which would have seen him sidelined. So I suppose you can understand that. Not like he'd obviously lost his balance as well and a bit of a slide. Only concern is his limited technical quality, which I've said before, which sometimes impacts his ability to create. And I think that's there for everybody to see. Next one, Lewis Hall. Another pad performance, if I'm honest. But again, he's been tested a little bit this weekend, the same as he was this week, I should say. 43% went with a 4. I gave him a 4. Couple of 5s, 1 6, and 1 7, which was interesting. And for Lewis, I wrote, where is he? Allowed Mbemo to come into his favourite left foot. Far too easy. Tough week defensively for the youngster, but his deliveries into the box are improving, and he played a lovely ball in behind for Barnes in the first half. In possession, he shows quality, but have to mark him down for his defensive frailties. I don't think there's any. You want to add anything to that one?
No. The first goal in particular, what he was doing, just letting Mbeumo have the ball instead of closing him down way before he got anywhere near the box. It was.
You don't know whether that, like I said, you don't know whether that was a tactical decision from the gaffer or whether his confidence was knocked from Salah on Wednesday. Because like we highlighted that all 3 Liverpool goals came from the left-hand side, right-hand side, left-back position. Bruno, bit of an indifferent game, I suppose. 71% went with the 5. You went with 5. Chris went with the 5. I can see there. There's a vote for
what it was. It was a
4 and a 6. Yeah, I mean, like I say, it was one of those moments in.
Is he
uncharacteristically
looking?
sloppy in possession at times, and definitely nowhere near as influential as he was against Liverpool. Time to persist as a number 8 rather than a number 6. That's what I've
That
said.
was the other thing I'm thinking about Bruno now. Maybe is because he's still wanting to do his little individual bits of brilliance, a couple of which came off.
Hmm.
And is that him putting himself in the window? Do you think?
Well,
Because
I've said,
there's a lot of chatter coming out of the Man City social media. You know, their ITKs are
yeah,
saying
yeah,
that Pep has told the board that that's who he wants to replace Rodri.
yeah. Well, like I said, for me, it was he's got to play better than he is at the moment if he's going to stay in the Man City team. That's all I'm going to say. Because and again, I've said it. We don't know how this affects players psychologically because of maybe like I said there was a bit of a handshake at the start of the or at the end of last season um, with whoever that was, and it didn't happen. And has he lost a little bit of momentum now? I don't know, but he certainly isn't playing well. Another player who had a bit of a stinker. And again, I mentioned this against Liverpool, and I said it previously. He's been hampered by this shoulder injury, and even on Saturday, his mind was elsewhere. He just wasn't involved in any of the play in the first half. We said, what's happened to J7 when you needed that general, when you needed that boy in the middle who's going to get himself roughed up a little bit and get stuck in and win you that ball back. Didn't see him. He
Yeah.
went a
Well,
little bit of
when he
a
went, if you remember during commentary when he went down holding his shoulder and then he was invisible for the rest of the half virtually, and we said he's got to take him off at half time,
yeah, yeah.
but
Um,
and he
four,
obviously didn't see it.
4 was the majority. Chris has given him a 2. Didn't obviously rate him at all in that game, Chris. Couple of votes for 3, but 50%, 57% win the majority
I
in the
noticeable
4.
that nobody gave him over a 4.
No,
So,
no, and I think that exactly what he deserved, if I'm honest.
yeah,
Um,
right.
I just put robust without offering anything tangible in possession. Almost halfway through the season, and he started every game, yet seems he hasn't quite found his best form. Very offish performance when you required a general in the middle of the park to win that, 50-50 ball back. So
He's not living up to his tank
just,
nickname at the minute.
nope, not at all. Uh, oh, surely Longstaff. No, I wonder what this lad will get. Uh, okay. There's 3 wins the day on 43%. Chris gave him a 6. You gave him a 7. I gave him a 5.
I think he was by no means the worst player on the pitch for to get a 3. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That
I mean, obviously, he could have scored in the first.
he had quite a good game, especially in the first half. You know, he could
Uh,
have been a hero if that shot that hit the bar went in. But there was quite a few times, if you remember, even Chris in the commentary was saying, "Oh, well done, Sean. You know, he's having a good game, etc., etc., etc."
I certainly didn't think he was outstanding. And as the game went on, when you needed those battlers, he seemed to disappear further into the game before he was subbed. If I'm honest. But he wasn't on his own, to be fair. But like I said, I've put down that he had a big opportunity starting ahead of Tonali again, but unfortunately failed to capitalise, rattled the bar early on. But after that, offered nothing in possession and was unusually poor off the ball too. Didn't see a lot, if I'm honest with you. But again, it was characteristic of the rest of the team. But 3 win the day on 43%. Murphy, I thought he had a really good game. I know everybody keeps on slating him, but I thought he had a really good game.
2 assists.
Yeah, Chris gave him a 5. 2 votes for a 3. Let's have a look, see if there's any other votes. Don't think there was.
I think I
No.
was a 7.
So I got a 7. Yeah, I see you gave him a 7. 57% went with a 7. Um, let's see what I put about him. I can't remember now what I wrote about. feast or famine. That was my headline. 2 first half assists showed what he's capable of, but also phased out of the game just as quickly. Upgrade is desperately needed, although he was one of the last players to blame for today's defeat. And that's the reason why I said he was all out in the first half and he was showing what he can deliver. But come the second half, it was again, where are you? He just wasn't around. Wasn't to be seen. So I suppose 7, yeah. And again, I only gave him that because of the two assists. To be fair, um, it's just a shame he didn't continue in the second half. But again, I don't think he played that bad
That can be
to get
levelled at
subbed.
everybody.
Yeah, but I don't think he played that badly to be subbed. That's what I couldn't understand. It was a bit of a crazy one for me. Going on to Harvey Barnes. Oh, crikey. Harvey Barnes, there's 5, 6, 7. I don't think there's any others. No, I gave him a 5. One, again, everybody starts on 5. I can't remember what I wrote of Barnes. At fault for Brentford's second goal with a very poor giveaway, but then redeemed himself with an equaliser. Was the biggest threat in the first half and created a chance Murphy headed over, but again dwindled away as the game went on and become, unfortunately, changing positions didn't help him. And as always, he just goes out the game on the right-hand side and eventually got substituted for Miggy. So 5%, 43% voted for a 5. Isaac, 71% gave him a 7. There was 1 vote for a 5 and 1 vote for a 6. I gave him a 6. Nobody else on anything else.
I thought, it could have
He
been
was,
an
yeah,
8.
he was definitely he should have been a 7. If he'd have, but he took that keeper on.
Well, I would have given him an 8 if he scored that, but I docked him 1 for doing a Mickey
Yeah.
against Milan and not using his wrong foot.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't fault him for his headed goal. I think he followed the ball
No,
beautifully
that
and
was
just guided it
well.
into the goal. But like I said, he did all the hard work. And I put down, got his customary goal, but butchered a chance to put us 2-1 up when he rounded the keeper, but waited too long and was dispossessed by Flecken. Couldn't get into the game in the second half. And again, I don't know what it is when Wilson comes on. Not only can we not get Wilson involved in the game, but we somehow lose Isaac. With whatever role Isaac's playing, whether he's playing the 10 role or he's gone, up top with alongside Wilson. The last 2 games I've seen the 2 of them play together has been a complete opposite to what we saw when the 2 of them played together last season. So really weird setup. But anyway, 71% went with a 7. So there you go. On the substitutions, and again, I don't think there's going to be a lot on here. Gordon got 5 with 57%. 1 vote for 3 and a 1 vote for 4 and a 6. I don't think there's any others because they're not showing up on the screen. No. And I put down for Gordon, came on his favoured left wing position, provided plenty of energy, got to the byline a couple of times and had a great opportunity, but ballooned it over the bar. Again, a lot of huff and puff, but no end product. That's how I saw it. So I gave him a standard 5. Didn't really excel, but didn't really do a lot to lose any points, I suppose. You were a 5 as well, by the looks of it, mate.
Yeah.
Chris gave him a 4. Tenali, here we go. Again, I gave him a 5. Would have been a lot more. This is joint, to be fair. 5 and a 6. I looked and I wanted to give the 6 because I think when he come on, he tried. But obviously, it was his unfortunate pass out or tried to pass out to Isaac. Where he lost the ball in the middle of the park for their 4th goal. So I docked him a point for that. Hence, I've got him on a So we're going to give him 5.5 as we're equal on a 5 and a 6. And I put him down for failed to add much off the bench. How would have been hoping for much more. But I think, like I said, and we've said it before, what do you expect a guy to do when you're behind? It's difficult to actually come on and change a game with that many players around you playing so poorly. I think sometimes they expect miracle from these guys, and they are, like I say, you've got to be downbeat um, as a player to be used off the bench to try and change the game constantly when the players that are in front of you just aren't doing any better. So I sometimes do struggle with what he's trying to achieve with this one, to be fair. But we're going to, like I say, it's 5.5 because 5 and 6 are equal. Wilson, I gave a 3. You gave a 5, but the winning number was a 4. Chris gave a 2. Again, pretty anonymous. Relies on service into the box, and he received none. Looks a long way off his best form, although this will happen after so long out and a lack of pre-season. But again, if you don't feed the box with enough deliveries and support, then I don't know what you expect a centre forward to do. Well, I mean, even Isaac, you've got to give him the supply to get him to do anything, haven't you? Trippier came on just as we had a set piece to try and get something out of the game. And what does he go and do? Hit the first man. I think everybody gave him. Oh, I gave him a 2. That's how bad it was. 71% gave him a 4. And I've put down for Trippier. Where is it? First touch was a free kick in a dangerous position, but didn't beat the first man. Didn't get much better after that either. So quite poor. And last but not least was Miggy Almiron. Crikey.
Shocking.
I mean, I put him as a 3. I can't. I don't know what to say. There's a couple said 3. There's a couple said 4. I couldn't give him anything above a 3 for what I saw, and I've just put down did nothing to convince anyone he shouldn't be in the first. Shouldn't be the first one sold in January. Rare opportunity, but wasteful when in good positions. Finding one decent chance, well over into the high stand. Attitude can't be questioned, but it would be, it could be his final game for us because I just didn't see anything that will take Murphy out of the side. But again, I know people come at me and say, "Well, he hasn't had the opportunity." Um, I just don't see the quality. And at this level, I think you've got to have either an ability to cross, you've got to have an ability to score, you've got to have an ability to get involved. And yet his work rate is solid, but I just never ever see the quality that other people see in him. And there's been a lot of people that want him in the team. You and Chris voted for it the other day. And I was totally against it. And again, I've seen nothing on this guy that proves otherwise to me. But again, 3 wins 3 and 4. So 3.5 wins the day on 43%. Eddie Howe. I went with a 4, but the majority went with a 3, which was 43%. And there was 1 vote for 2 and 1 vote for 1. What can I say? I don't think you can blame Eddie for defensive frailties on the park, but you can blame him for the starting lineup. Hence, he's not got a great vote. Changing positions. Why can't you go like for like? If you're going to bring a player off, why do you have to change one player across if it's not working out? It didn't make sense for me. And I said if you're gonna make a change that changes a formation. When you're desperate to get a goal back, for me, you could have gone as daft it looked like a 4-2-4, or even said, you know what, I'm gonna bring Kelly on, and I'm going to move my lads up and play higher up the park and just go long ball for for the last 15 minutes. Try something different. Even though I know that's not his forte.
But like I say, Eddie's in-game management and any attempts that he does, you've seen it work on a very rare occasion. I
Mm,
mean, Brentford, for example, 2 or 3 years ago, when he finally brought Wilson on to play with Isaac, and they started lobbing it in, and we got the equaliser and got the winner. But they're few and far between. Few and far between. Let's
mm.
have a look at some of these comments.
Yeah, yeah.
We need to get rid of Longstaff and Murphy as soon as possible. 3 years into the takeover, and we're still using players who weren't good enough for Ashley's Newcastle. But they've got to go. If we are offered 100 plus for any of our starting players, I would take it so we can rebuild and invest. I think I would, with the exception of Isaac. I say this: the armband is too heavy for Bruno. He needs to give it to BDB, dye his hair back to platinum, and go back to being a twat. Sandro has amazing vision, and he's flick or slick passes.
I mean,
Uh,
it is so
yeah,
chalk
I
and
agree with
cheese,
that,
isn't it?
Darren Reid. Strikers are difficult to replace. That's why I would hold on to these. Yeah, that's just what I was
It's true.
saying there.
Yeah, yeah.
I would take 100 million for any of the rest. You think a lot of our players are putting themselves in the shop window by playing well against the big teams when they know it's being watched around the world? And we've done that one. I'm Fuller. Oh, wait a minute. Right, let's get back up here. This year's a reality check. We overachieved after the takeover, stuck with almost the same squad and no sight of any big signings. We're back to being a club happy to survive relegation.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, there's Alan's put in here, like, the Eddie. So yeah, that what you
oh,
put in on next. Go on then, put that up.
wait a minute. I've done these already.
We've done. Yeah, you need to press the stars once you show them. If you just
Yeah.
flick the stars off, they go
Uh,
off, and then you can see what you've done and what you haven't done.
mm,
Um, Alan McMurtry saying that not talking about you wins, fans saying we're in danger. Well, I don't think it's about us being in danger of relegation. I suppose it's just the fact that you're on such a high and it's such a close knit league. 3 or 4 wins strung together, and it puts you straight back into the mix. I think the biggest problem is it's the frustration from fans because none of us can see the consistency of putting these 3 and 4 wins together. And when we do play half decent, we can see that many goals against, we actually come away with just a point. And it's like, it's soul destroying sometimes that you get the teams are upbeat for the big games and yet still don't get the results that they need.
have I shown that one from Flatulence? We beat Leicester,
No,
Brentford, Ipswich, and Villa. We get a semi-final and top six. Who's saying we don't? Eddie a hero again, and Champions League back on. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's these next 4 games for me
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Decide whether I'm going to be one
One
way or
way or
the
the
other.
other. Yeah, I mean, I put in my chat. I don't think he's close to the sack yet, but I think come Christmas time, if the results go against us, I think the pressure's definitely on.
Uh, oh, Wacky Angler. I'd be looking at Ryan Cherky,
Yeah,
experienced player, and get him fairly cheap.
you're right, but
Yeah,
it's his
well,
attitude.
I was,
It's
I
whether he's
was,
got the attributes.
I was advocating him 2 summers ago, but he hasn't pulled up any trees since then.
He's done well this season, and we were talking about him because I think he's on his final year of his contract, so he would come very very cheap if they were willing to go and have a look at him. Like I said, the biggest problem with me is his attitude.
But Bandits here, I didn't see the game as I had a power cut. Fuck, saved myself a
Oh,
nightmare.
yeah, you
Yeah,
did, matey.
you did. Ugly I've just done that one. Foxy, Bruno's team in Brazil, Atletico, whatever the PR is, I got relegated last night to Serie B. And they were in the
Mhm.
Copa Libertadores final 2 years ago. That shows how things can change in football.
So true.
James Slater, my take, guys, is unfortunately as a fan base, we are going to have to be patient. We overachieved when we got Champions League football and have fallen back to where we should be. Sacking Eddie isn't the answer. Wise words, my friend, wise words. David Knight.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to put that up just so we can
Yeah,
have a quick
smash the
look.
like. How many
Yeah,
likes?
smash the likes
Let's have a look.
and give us
Oh,
some
well, we've
thumbs up,
only got
guys.
35. We've got nearly 200 watching and only 35 likes. Oh, well,
Come
guys,
on.
do us a favour. Bum, bum. Yeah,
Oh,
David.
I'll take that down. You can put yours up now.
Right, there you go. Hi, guys. Quick question. When was the last time Eddie didn't play with a 4-3-3? We are so easy to predict and play against. Well, unfortunately, that's what he does play, a 4-3-3. Very rarely does he change it. Very, very rarely. And never at the start of a game.
No, he starts this fluid 4-3-3, and I think that the biggest problem we have with this fluid 4-3-3, if it doesn't work, is the disconnection between the defence and midfield. The midfield when they sit too deep and then attack, because you don't get bodies committing into the half spaces. And again, it's trying to progress the ball with the sideward steps rather than like a lot of teams do these days when they play the 10. They can get the ball up to the 10 really quickly. And then if our lads have overcommitted themselves, the 10 seems to have the freedom of England, just to get around and get shots on and goal. And I think that's something that Eddie needs to look at really strongly over the next few games, is how he's going to play this deep midfielder. If he plays Bruno there, I'm sorry, I've said it all along. Bruno isn't a six, and
No.
I know Eddie doesn't like to play with a six, but he hasn't got the brain to be a six.
Yeah, no, quick question. Oh, no, we've just done that one. I kind of think of any manager out there right now where we'd avoid paying compensation, who would be an improvement on Eddie. Who would want to work with no money?
Well, like I said,
That. By the way, that for me still is not an excuse for not sacking a manager, because you don't think there's anybody else out there who can do a better job. That to me is not a valid reason for not getting rid of somebody who you know isn't doing whatever it is you want him to do.
thanks, Nick Thornton, for becoming a new member. Really cracking, matey. Thank you ever so much. Like I said, glad you enjoy it, and you're supporting us. That'll be good. So, well done, buddy, and welcome along.
What was this one? Lucky Angler. I was on 4 million a year until 26, 27. You'd have to pay off his contract and pay a compo to a new manager. That's most of your budget gone. Well, not really. It's it's a sizable chunk, whatever, 10 million in total or something.
Mm.
But we need to get rid of Longstaff and Murphy as soon as possible. 3 years in the takeover. Oh, I think we've already done that one. If we are for yep, we're not. Right, the other ones we did earlier on. Okay, so that's them up to date.
Alan's saying you could play Miley as the number 6,
Well,
if you want to play Tonali and Bruno in the middle.
why was Maley not on the bench?
Well, apparently, according to Eddie, he wants him to get match fit and match sharp. Hence, he's got more chance of getting minutes in the under 21s. He's been out for such a long time. He thinks by giving him a chance to play in the under-21s, it'll allow him to get up to match speed. So, I mean, there's always going to be an argument about that. You know what Eddie's like for overprotecting the youngsters. But I think sometimes when your team's calling out for a change, something different, you've just got to make a change. You've got to make that decision, haven't you?
Well, there's our Brentford. What Angler? I'm saying early season games we got lucky to come up with 3 points as over. The team has been poor for the majority of the season.
Yeah. And Foxy's saying,
how much money have we spent with Howe, by the way? It's not like we spent a couple of 100,000. I don't want to hear that excuse too much. Yeah, but that's in sort of 6 windows. It's in comparison to what everybody else has spent. It's I think we're currently 7th or 8th in our wages bill, and we're less than that in money we've spent in 3.5 years. So everything's relative, and as Dan Ashworth said when he first came in, if you remember the documentary, he said you can correlate absolutely a team's wages bill with the amount of points they get in the Premiership, and that's been the same forever. And we are below 6th in all of that. So is it any wonder we're below 6th in the league?
That's true. Paul Guys is saying, hi, Gary and Win. My first Newcastle match was against Manchester United. The game finished 2-1 to Newcastle. Paul Goddard got the winning goal. Wow.
That was in the bad old days.
Bad old days, I was going to say.
Goddard was player of the season out of a very, very, very bad bunch.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't the greatest player in the world, was he?
He wasn't, but he was good enough to be our player of the year.
Absolutely, yeah. But that just proves how times have. I mean, times have changed. We know that, and like I say, maybe we are expecting a lot more than we suppose we should be. But for me, when you've got the lads on the park, like you know they can do something because we've seen it. Even this season, we've seen it in bits and drabs. What is it that's making us so poor this time? It's unreal. It's time to go, says Tiger. Yeah, I suppose, like I say, luck is going to run out eventually. I suppose what we've got to wait for, though, is the backing of the board, because usually when that happens, it's only a matter of time.
The dreaded vote of confidence.
The vote of confidence, yeah, exactly.
Well, again, as I've said numerous times now, the window just is going to tell me whether the board have got faith in Eddie or not. Because if they don't spend anything in January, and I'm talking about significant spends, then to me it means that they've lost confidence.
But that's what I said before, though. Win, how can you expect to move forward with an aging squad, with players that we've had under Steve Bruce, with generally small squad, everybody around you's spending not masses amount, but enough to keep them or improving, and yet we aren't doing a thing. So we're expecting the same players 2 or 3 years to keep going under the same steam, regardless of who we're playing against. Now, we all said that this is the best opportunity we will ever have to reach the top 6 again because of the way our season spread, but also the fact that everybody else is taking points off everybody. And I mean, again, we've gone from being 3 points behind the top 4 to now being 7 points, which isn't a million miles away. But again, what we need is those winning runs and everybody else around us to start dropping points, so we can start picking up the pace a little bit. And when you've got the
but
likes,
everybody around us has to stop dropping points because they're all playing each other.
well, that's what I'm saying. But you've got to start taking advantage of
Yeah,
the
yeah. So
games that
what I'm
you've
saying,
got.
if we win for a start, we'll be above Aston Villa. If we win our 3 games, one of which is Aston Villa,
Is Aston Villa, yeah,
we'll be above them.
yeah. Darren
Uh,
Lee saying the problem is we don't look like a team that can beat the poor and average sides. We might be up for the Villa game, and that's it. How needs to change things. Players' mindsets are wrong.
Players' mindsets are wrong, or at least they certainly look as though
They
they're wrong.
certainly look it. Yeah. Like I say, they don't look like they're up for the fight. I haven't got any major news apart from obviously we were going to talk about Dan Ashworth, but don't think really there's a lot out there. There's a really interesting one that I saw that's just
Alan
dropped.
Shearer's
Yeah, they were quite harsh, weren't they?
got in his
Uh,
two penneth, saying how the players, and in fact, Eddie in his post match to the written journals for the first time questioned the attitude
yeah,
as well as blaming the weather.
yeah. And um, I was just looking at this. My return to the field with France was a bit of a liberty. I explained the first games with Newcastle, a lot of my emotional levels and a lot of football level, but I experienced that one totally on a football level, he said. I'm talking, this is Tonali talking to the Calcio Mercato. It was a third match. I was no longer had the emotional of the first. It was very nice, eventually came naturally. And he's talking literally about how his year off the field had been suspended and how the club had looked after him. Um, I still question, like I said at the start of the season, when you've got somebody like Tonali who goes out for international levels and does what he does with Spalletti, then you get the likes of Howe who keeps him on the bench, and you start questioning yourself, what doesn't Eddie see that obviously an international manager sees? Um, I'm not sure what the situation is here. Is Eddie holding this year ban? To like as a bit of a gun to his head, saying that you are only a bit part player in the squad. I don't know what it is. When
Well,
Eddie
if it
drops
is,
him all the time.
if that is the case, I would definitely be on the dark side.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it is for a minute, but
No, I hope not. But
it
you
doesn't
got to
make
start
it
questioning it, haven't
doesn't
you?
make any sense not starting him. It
No,
doesn't make any sense at all.
no, because he's speaking really highly of Newcastle there with his talk to the papers. So it is going to be an interesting one, and there's another one that's just come in. There's going to be again, I am getting to the point now where I, I don't know whether it's Mitchell or what it is. Looking at all these younguns, when we are so desperate for players that can come into the first team, um, we are now looking at another 18-year-old, Juma Bar. Everton are all set to battle out with Manchester City and Newcastle on the services of Sierra Leone's sensation Juma Bar.
No, nothing about him.
Now, like I say, he's one that's not sure whether I've got him actually in my. His name rings a bell. It might be in my 60 that I'd picked out. His name does ring a bell, but again, without looking at him in depth, I wouldn't know. But it does go on to say there's 3 top flight English clubs have taken note of his impressive performances for Real Valladolid in La Liga. The Merseyside club are interested, as in Everton, and are willing to rival Man City, as well as the Magpies in a race for the defensive midfielder. Bar is currently on a season-long loan at Spanish club Sierra Leone outfit ALK Freetong. The 18-year-old centre-back has featured a total of 9 first-team games, and he has surely impressed a lot of people with his performances. His defensive awareness and aerial prowess, along with his physical strength, make him a huge prospect for the future. While he might not be ready for regular first team football yet, Bar is someone who could do wonders in the long run.
We'll have to have a look at him.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly somebody we'll see what comes out there because
Yeah, we'll be
you
doing
never really,
more transfer as we get
yeah,
nearer the window. We'll be
near to
doing
the
more
window.
transfer
But
target.
again, are you not getting to that point now where we see all these young uns being looked at? Are they going to? Like, we know what
They're
Mindy
not
can do
they're
for
not
us.
going to come into the team and improve it.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly,
we need to be buying first team regular,
absolutely, or
guaranteed
at least
starter.
first team ready. Yeah, exactly.
Wacky Angler saying there, I know everybody's wanting a high press, high tempo back, but it's knackering the players, and too much emphasis has been put on the press and not enough on basic passing and ball retention. And I couldn't agree with that more because again on Saturday we couldn't put three unless we were going backwards and doing your pendulum,
Yeah, yeah,
with your easy, no risk
yeah, yeah.
balls,
Left
not
to right, left
threatening
to
at
right.
all, not creating chances. We couldn't put three forward passes together for the sake of argument.
But
And,
that's what you get, isn't it? Because you like I said, if you get a disconnection with the back line with your midfielders, and the ball then gets dropped over the top into the 10, which we saw the first goal with Umbuemo having all that space. Um, how do you defend against it? Because everybody's committed to the press, and that's what I said. You've got to play a system that allows you to be able to pick those bodies up, and I don't think Eddie Howe has quite sorted that one out yet. When the likes of Brentford will just hold players up top as they did with Umbuemo and Wissa, and then for us to still have three at the back, but all play within the 18-yard lines, I find that strange, absolutely strange, because obviously he wanted to commit the likes of Tino going forward down the other side. He'd obviously, he knew all about Umbuemo and the effect that he has on the game. Hence, he told Hall to sit on the deeper side and not commit going forward. But it was so weird to see how they'd got it all set up.
we had
But anyway,
Brandt here saying coming out with the oft trumpeted comment that how is too loyal, he got too many favourites, and that's holding others back. For to play Longstaff and plays a Tenali non-stop because he's a good guy, lol. Exactly. Well, it's a charge that's been levelled against Eddie many times, and there's a lot of truth in it. He has players that he trusts, but are those players good enough?
yeah,
And
Blench is coming here. Look, this team we support is killing me.
well, it's
Yeah,
killed me for 60 years, kid.
I'm gonna say you got many more years to come, then, mate. Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah, there's a smile on my face. Have a
Alessandro, here we
smashing
go.
day, everyone, and a rocking week. Let's forget about the NUFC disaster and hope we can wipe the slate clean this weekend. If
Oh,
only life were that easy, Alessandro. If only life were that easy.
yeah, I can understand that, Nick. What you're saying there about
Yeah.
these? Oh,
Most
sorry, brother.
most of the kids Mitchell signs are future stars.
They are.
They either play or flip for profit. Mm.
They are. I totally agree. And Nick Thornton's come on again here and said that these kids coming in don't count on PSO. We know that, buddy. But it's a case of, for me, they're playing obviously at a decent level wherever they are. We'll buy them or at least go to sign them and then dish them straight back out. So it doesn't even benefit our youth system, And I think sometimes when you look at the likes of the big teams around us that have got all these youngins, high fledglings, the Man Cities alike, Chelsea's, Man U. Um, they are strengthening their youth squads, and it's building that momentum and confidence because they play the same system as Eddie Howe does. Um, and I sometimes I don't understand why we'll go and buy somebody and then say to them, stay where you are for a season, ship them out back on loan. Yeah, I know it gives them the experience, but as we've seen with Kowal, sometimes it has the adverse effect because they just never seem to get involved in what you're trying to give them. Obviously, Minte scoring again the weekend could have been something different, but obviously that's for another day. Mate, I'm going to have to make a move, unfortunately.
Right, well, just for
Um,
proxy, our font of all
yeah, yeah.
knowledge and all things foreign, St. Juma Bar, impressive centre-back this season in La Liga for Valladolid. No-brainer for the price. Well,
There you
there we
go.
go.
Cool. Yeah, like I say, I'm sure he was in one of my 60 to look up
I'll
because
have a
the
look at
name
him when
does
we
ring
get
a
off.
bell. But anyway, thank you ever so much for everything again today. Thank you for everybody that's gifted memberships, being a member, um, become members, all things like that. Great to support the cause. It's always, a great topic of debate for both me and Win
It's always a
with you
miserable
guys.
Monday morning when we get beat.
When we get beat, yeah, it's very difficult to pick them chins off the floor. But obviously on Wednesday we've got you'll have us again. It's a 2 o'clocker on Wednesday. What we going to call it on the 2 o'clocker? The mighty Yam Yam, the mighty Yam Yam show on a UFC TV, where we obviously try and get you guys involved again, and hopefully we'll have more news coming through the door. But obviously, until that time, we have got a show tonight,
Got a show
9:30.
tonight, 9:30 tonight.
Yeah, and then obviously you've got your Undisputed tomorrow at 9:30 again,
Yep.
and that's also a good one to have a
And
bit of a
that's
debate
going
on.
to be specifically looking at
Leadership,
leadership on the pitch,
yeah,
or shall
leadership.
we say, lack of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny, isn't it? I was having a quick look at that this leadership group. 'Cause, I didn't realise who was in the leadership group was Murphy.
No, I didn't. Is he
Uh,
taking
Accord,
Thomas' place?
according to this, again, I'm sure Chris will go through it in depth. With obviously you've still got Lascelles as club captain. But
And you
when
got
you then,
Burn, Trips, and Wilson,
yeah, you got Burns, Trips, and Wilkes, and Jacob Murphy.
and Jacob Murphy. So he's obviously taking Paul Dummett's
Yeah, yeah.
place.
So I didn't realise that. But again, it just goes to show, doesn't it, that you're obviously not going to get a lot from the Smiler when it comes to giving somebody a rocket up the backside. But obviously that'll be, like I say, that'll be on Tuesday, and then like I say, you've got me and the Mighty again on 2 o'clock on Wednesday for the afternoon show. But until obviously then, it's a goodbye from him.
And it's a goodbye from him. How
See
are
you
the
on the next
lads?
one. And the lassies in Burns. Oh, well done to the lassies, by the way, for the 2-0 win over Middlesbrough yesterday.
Oh, well,
That's
there you
probably a
go.
little bit of a smiley on the face. But until the next one, cheers, boys and
Ta-da
girls,
now.
Burns. Take it easy.